Hi there and good morning. It is 7 a.m. and this is Mornings on Sky News. I'm Kamali.
And I'm Leah. Thank you for starting your day with us. This is how things are looking.
A manhunt underway after 2 people were killed and 9 injured in a mass shooting at Brown University in the United States. Police have released this footage of a suspect as they tell students and people who live locally to take shelter.
The government claimed violence against women and girls is being treated as a fact of life in modern Britain as the Home Secretary declares a national emergency.
A former border chief tells Sky News controlling small boat crossings relies on the weather rather than enforcement, as dozens crossed the channel yesterday after 28 days of no crossings.
Also today, we're speaking about life-saving organ donation. We're going to hear from a little boy who has received a kidney transplant after his family spent years trying to find the perfect match.
Hello, good morning. Thanks for being with us. We'll begin with a developing story this hour coming out of the United States. And we know that 2 people have been killed and 9 have been injured after a shooting at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah, the gunman is still at large and people in the area have been urged to stay indoors. The shooting happened inside a classroom on the first floor of an engineering building on campus as students were taking their final exams.
Yeah, the students at that elite Ivy League college described turning off lights and having to hide under the desk for hours in the hope that the shooter wouldn't discover them.
Sky's US correspondent Martha Cowner reports.
Inside one of America's most prestigious universities, armed police stalk corridors searching for their suspect. A man who brought terror to the Brown University campus, shooting students dead while end-of-year exams were taking place. This is the only video police have of the gunman striding away from the scene. The hope that someone might recognise him by his clothing or the way he walks.
He's going to be wearing dark clothing. You're not going to be able to see his face. Dark grey or black clothing. And some of the witnesses have also told us that he may have been wearing a camouflage grey mask. That is unconfirmed. But if anybody should recognize this person in any way, seen him earlier, recognize his gait, obviously we want to know about that.
Several hours after the first shots were fired, the community still being urged to shelter in place in classrooms, homes or dormitories. Students are evacuated onto buses, a reminder of the reality of America's gun violence epidemic 2 weeks before Christmas. This is where the shooting took place, inside the School of Engineering, in a classroom on the first floor. Doors which would usually have been locked were open because of exams.
There were 3 other students with me. We decided to turn the light off and close all the doors and hide under our desks and wait for the next notification after the shooting.
How long did you hide for?
I think it was about 2 hours or so. We heard a lot of noise by the police outside our lab, and I also received a notification that they want everyone to get out of the building so that they can search every corner of the building to hunt for the shooter.
The campus was swarmed by 400 officers searching for the gunman. This is a small city where violence like this is unfamiliar. There were only 2 murders here this year until now.
Sadly, today is a day that the city of Providence and the state of Rhode Island prayed would never come. We've heard about horrific acts of gun violence and active shooter situations in other places, but not here. But this afternoon at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we received a call. 4:05 was when the initial call came in to Brown University of a report of an active shooter.
The president also offering support to the victims.
Well, I've been fully briefed on the Brown University situation, what a terrible thing it is. And all we can do right now is pray for the victims and for those that were very badly hurt, it looks like. And we'll inform you later as to what's happening, but it's a shame. It's a shame. Just pray. Thank you very much.
As the search for the shooter enters a second day, this campus remains locked down and the surrounding area on high alert. As they hunt for the man responsible, authorities here know that every minute matters. Martha Kellner, Sky News.
You know, people watching this, Kamali, at home will be thinking, how is this happening again?
Another one.
Within the fabric of what people in the United States become used to, and that phrase feels really odd to say.
It is. It's completely normal. I mean, I've got a list here of recent mass shootings. There was one in Chesapeake in Virginia where 6 people were shot dead, 4 injured at a shooting at a Walmart. There was one in October in Mississippi where another 7 people were killed. I was on air not long ago in August when there was a shooting at a school, if you remember that one, in Minnesota at the Annunciation Church. I mean, this happens all the time.
Yeah.
Depending on how you record it, 389 mass shootings in the US this year. That is defined as 4 people or more killed or injured. The AP have a slightly different definition of that. They record it as 4 people having been killed, not the injured part. And they say there's been 17 of those so far this year. I mean, it's every month, every week, and people are dying in the United States. And we've got to the point now where I'm not even sure they have the conversation about gun control after these mass shootings because it's just become so normal, which is...
And in this case, the investigation, of course, it is ongoing.
Yes, it is.
And we'll bring viewers up to date if we get any information there. But back here, specialist teams to investigate rape and other sex offences are to be introduced to every police force in England and Wales.
Yeah, as part of reforms being brought in by the government as part of their violence against women and girls strategy, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has declared a national emergency to deal with it. Let's bring in our correspondent, Oliver Whitfield-Mirchich, for more of this. Morning to you, Ollie. So why don't you take us through what the government have got planned to announce?
Yeah, I will do. First of all, we've just got to discuss some of the statistics around violence against women and girls, because even when you look at the number of rapes that are reported every single day to police forces, it shows the true scale and just how shocking this is, with 200 rapes every day reported to the police in England and Wales. And that is not even the true number, because we know that there are women that don't come forward, they're scared, there's a number of different reasons why they don't come forward and report their experience to the police. So now the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has announced these whole raft of new measures, including saying that violence against women and girls is a national emergency. One of the big things that she's saying is there's going to be specialist forces that are going to be rolled out across England and Wales. And let's just take a look at how these will work. These specialist investigation teams will be in place across every force by 2029. There are also plans to widen a disclosure scheme to allow women to know if their partners have previous convictions for sexual assault, stalking or harassment. And the government is looking at reforming human rights law so migrant sex offenders can be stripped of refugee protections and deported more quickly. One of the recent cases that I was in court for, I saw an asylum seeker who was found guilty of sexually assaulting 3 women on 3 separate occasions. He was allowed to remain in the country and live at his sister's house. If the Home Secretary changes how European human rights law is applied in the UK by changing the different definitions, she could potentially put an end to that.
Argued family connection was the reason why he had to stay.
One of the reasons, but also because it didn't reach the threshold of being sent over to the Crown Court for prosecution.
Interesting.
Right, OK. You know, when you look at these plans, and I'm talking now as a mother to a daughter, you want to feel like society in the future. When she's 15, she's walking home from school, you know, she's going to meet a friend that she's safe. That's what you hope these plans will do. What has been the reaction, though, so far?
Mixed. If you remember the guest you just spoke to in the last hour, you know, cautiously optimistic that the government has acknowledged that this is an emergency, happy that the strategy has been announced, although acknowledging that it has been repeatedly delayed, something that the Commons had written to Shabana Mahmood saying that women's charities had expressed concerns that had been repeatedly delayed. And the Conservatives are saying that it is too little, too late. They say that the government has repeatedly voted against tougher sentences, that there are seen falling numbers of sex offenders who've been convicted over the past year and a half. So, yeah, it's not a universal welcome, but there are certainly people, especially amongst women's charities, who say it is a step in the right direction. It's one of those things. Time will tell to see how effective this is. But a 4-year wait until 2029 for these forces to be put into place, I think a lot of women's charities will be thinking, why can't we be getting on with this sooner?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's also funding, isn't it?
It is funding.
Plays such a huge part in this.
But as being said earlier, because of the crisis that is being faced by women and girls, any step that gets it further forward can be welcomed. It just needs to make sure that, as you say,
Delivered.
time... Yeah, precisely.
Delivery.
Has to be delivered.
OK. Later this morning, you can actually watch Trevor Phillips' interview with the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, and that's coming up at 8:30.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Ollie. See you again later on. Now, the Home Secretary's got quite the intro at the moment after another challenge for her, of course, is to deal with migration. Now, hundreds of migrants crossed the Channel yesterday after the longest pause in arrivals in some 7 years.
Yeah, until then, there have been no one arriving on small boats for 28 days, a pause not seen since 2018. Our People and Politics correspondent Nick Martin has this report.
After nearly a month of no crossings, the small boats returned. A Border Force vessel recovered dozens of people who've attempted to cross the English Channel to reach the United Kingdom. It has been 28 days since the last small boat crossing, the longest pause since 2018. In 2024, a total of 36,816 people made the crossing. So far this year, the number has risen to 39,292. An increase of 2,476 people. The Home Office describes the scale of boat crossings as shameful and says it's getting tough on migration, including a one-in, one-out policy, which has already seen 150 migrants returned, as well as pledging at least £500 million to help French authorities stop crossings in the first place. But critics argue the numbers show crossings remain stubbornly high, with weather, not policy, still driving short-term changes.
It's a bit worrying that this whole thing relies on the weather to actually stem the tide of irregular migration. And I think the way to actually view it, in my view, if I was, part of the Home Office, is if we've got a respite now, then let's see what we can do in order to try and ratchet things up in terms of enforcement activity to make sure that this respite continues.
Say it loud, say it clear.
In the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's constituency in Birmingham, protesters gathered to oppose the government's stricter migration plans.
The reason these crossings are actually happening is because the government is shutting down safe routes for genuine asylum seekers and people who are seeking safety here to actually cross. Now, the thing is that based on basic human rights, anyone who's fleeing war or genocide or persecution has the right to come here in whatever way that they can.
The end of a 28-day pause in small boat crossings has once again exposed the fragility of the government's migration promise. Nick Martin, Sky News.
Right, well, still to come this morning on Mornings with Leah and I. We'll be looking at how one farm in England is growing strawberries for Christmas and the rest of the year as well.
This is how you travel when the mafia wants to kill you.
He's almost given up his own freedom, but that's the price he's willing to pay.
Here, they don't just arrest Ndrangheta mafia members, they also live among them.
Time after time, I've seen the devastating impact of extreme weather and climate change.
We don't have much snow at the moment.
They've had a warm spring and exceptionally hot summer, and that means they're expecting to lose more than 3 times the amount of ice than they usually do.
Flames are still forcing people from their homes and leaving many questioning their futures.
Here was my life. We have nothing. I can't say anything, it's so sad.
This disaster is testing the resolve of everyone on this island.
The only way out now is by boat.
Everything you see is devastated, and the misery being felt by people living here is repeated in towns and villages across Central Europe.
Sky News, get the full story first.
Turkey is burying its dead. The loss is profound.
Whole families died in this collapse. Generations wiped out. The violence has penetrated the heart of the city rather than being contained to the estates around the edge, and that speaks to the level of anger being felt here.
In Sweden, police have seized a lethal stash. This is just a small sample of the deadly arsenal taken off the streets.
This is an example of an advert, really. Anyone of any age could say, I'll do that for £1 million, and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes.
I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
Now, as Christmas approaches, the sight of fresh, juicy strawberries may not be the first thing that comes to mind. But thanks to one clever British farm, that's about to change, isn't it?
OK, good. Well, now, most of us rely on imports that have, of course, a huge carbon footprint. This farm is growing strawberries all year round with the help of LED technology. And this festive season, they're looking to harvest some 1.5 million punnets, which is loads. Our correspondent Emma Birchley has this.
Blue skies and berries as far as the eye can see. But this is West Sussex in winter, so it's not exactly what you'd expect. The day after being picked, though, these strawberries will be on a shop shelf on British soil.
The LED lighting is the prime reason for successful growing. So we're producing here enough energy for the plant, so the leaf receives that energy from either sunshine, lovely day today, so we're lucky today. But if that was not a sunny day today, the LED lighting would create enough energy for the leaves to absorb that energy, take it in, and deliver the energy to the berries, which comes also with sweetness and size.
In fact, here in Chichester, they've installed 36,000 square metres of LED-lit glass houses, enabling the country's first commercial-scale year-round production of beautiful berries. Bartosz is expecting they'll fill 1.5 million punnets this winter, all while ensuring year-round work for 50 people and for the micro-predators lurking in this sawdust.
What we're trying to do is we create an ecosystem for these little bugs to control certain pests.
The vast greenhouses are partially powered by renewable energy, creating spring-like conditions in December, so no air miles clocked up importing from Egypt. And this fruit is only picked once it's ripe and ready, rather than green around the edges. But inevitably there is an impact from creating a space warm enough for short sleeves.
You're going to need a lot of heat and you're going to need a lot of light in order to reproduce those summer growing conditions. So everything hinges on the energy source that you're going to be using. And when we look at the UK self-sufficiency levels in fruit and vegetable, they are appalling. 16% of the fruit we consume is UK grown. So the vast majority is imported. And when it comes to vegetables, we're looking more at about 50% or so. So there's a lot more that we can be doing to build up and should be doing.
For some, it's simple. Strawberries should be saved for summer. But demand has soared in recent years. And at least this way, it's a much shorter journey from plant to plate. Emma Birchley, Sky News.
OK, OK, coming up after a short break, we're going to hear from the little boy who's finally received life-saving kidney.
Looking forward to speaking to him. And we'll have all the action from the Premier League as Arsenal survive a late scare against Wolves. Plus, Mo Salah on his return to Liverpool, but was it his final appearance for the club?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
All right, well, Jackie has joined us. Morning to you.
Good morning.
How
yes, we're kind of at, I don't know, a bit of crossroads. What to talk about? What was the more important story from yesterday? Was it Arsenal nearly slipping up against Wolves? They've got the worst defence in the Premier League.
I feel a bit sorry for Wolves,
at
actually.
Home as well.
Well, you would say that.
I feel a bit of the Arsenal fans at the desk.
Or was it, Maresca coming out after the Chelsea match when they won 2-0 and saying it was the worst 48 hours of his reign as Chelsea boss, and then everyone was like, what happened?
What does he mean?
What does he mean? And he never said. But I think it was really Mo Salah. Everybody watching to see what kind of reception he would get. And he was back in the squad. He came off the bench in 26 minutes. And it was actually a really good reception from the Liverpool fans, really warm.
I'm kind of surprised that they were so nice to him, because didn't they boo Trent when he came back? I mean, they were very unhappy with how he left the club. I mean, obviously he left the club.
Liverpool fans can if they want to.
Yeah, they can turn.
But a very warm reception. And then, of course, at the end, he was waving. What kind of wave was that? Was it a goodbye wave? Was it just, I'll see you in a month, I'm off to the Africa Cup of Nations? What kind of... Was it a decisive wave?
Yeah,
but, I mean, he had a big part to play in the second goal. So if that was the end, it was kind of a sweet way to go out. But Arne Slot was asked afterwards, and he said, well, I don't think so.
Right.
I expect to see him back.
See him back,
but
good.
a month's a long time in football.
Yeah, a lot can change, and an offer could come in that's millions and millions a week, which is what he would get if he was going to Saudi, right?
Well, a huge offer in terms of what they would actually pay for him. You know, we will pay you 100 million, for example. How could you turn that down? I mean, I don't know. There's so many imponderables, but no one could tell what was happening from the wave. It was just like, bye, I'm off to AFCON. Okay. Anyways, we'll have a look at the Arsenal goals, which were, you don't see this very often in a match, 2 own goals.
That's why I feel sorry for him.
It was a very nervous Arsenal performance. So let's take a look.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Sorry, I just have a German passport. Hopefully I can convince them and show them and prove them that I'm proud to be the English manager.
For only the 3rd time in history, the FA have turned to a foreign manager to take charge of the men's England team. Thomas Tuchel follows in the footsteps of Sven-Göran Eriksson.
If we don't do results, of course, they will try to hang me, but even if I was an Englishman, they hang me. So that's...
And Fabio Capello.
A winner with a capital W. That was the template. This is the man.
When the news about Tuchel broke, there was a mixed media reaction. Some in Tuchel see a Champions League winning manager and the best candidate available if you want to win a World Cup. That's certainly how the FA bosses view it. But for others, there's a more fundamental principle here. They believe that an Englishman should be in charge of England.
Well, I was hoping we'd get an English manager, but when you look at the choices, there are very few, aren't they?
The jobs are so prestigious and there's so much money in the job that people are tempted to spread the net wide.
There's nothing in the water that stops it. It's all about opportunity. I think it's probably a little bit simplistic just to put it down to national borders.
On whichever side of the debate you fall, there is one fact which is indisputable. The pool of English coaches at the elite level of the game is pretty shallow. And the key question is, why?
What we are deemed as English coaches, we're responsible for.
Do you feel like to get a job in the Premier League as an Englishman, you have to be promoted to the division?
I would say 99 times out of 100.
You can't just give people jobs.
I want to try and help in any way that I can produce more English managers.
I'm at St George's Park. Opened in 2012, the FA intended this place to be a centre of excellence and a destination of choice for players, coaches, administrators and officials alike. Why have the FA turned to the continent to replace an English manager who's been the most successful in the top job since Sir Alf Ramsey? Well, to answer that question, you have to look much deeper within the game. Before the birth of the Premier League, the English First Division was won predominantly by teams with British managers. 38 Englishmen, 10 Scotsmen and an Irishman in Bob Kyle. The Premier League was formed in 1992 and that date coincides with the last time an English manager was in charge of a team that won the top division. If I'd said to you back in 1992 that no English manager would win the top division for another 33 years and counting, you'd have been shocked, wouldn't you?
No, my first response would have been, don't be stupid, based on what I saw at the time. Don't be stupid. It's not sadness, it's just a lot of that sentimentality. But sometimes it does you good to be sentimental. My desire is, or would be, it's the England team, we need an England coach. But what I think of as ideal has to then be placed in perspective with regard to the reality. And the reality being, do we think there are people around who can take the England team to where we'd like it to be in terms of position? And if they decide that they don't think that's possible, I don't see that they can make any other decision. Football, as we all know, has changed. And I think that now, particularly with regard to football and the Premier League in this country's possibly become the new Hollywood. the Hollywood of the 40s, 50s. It's just the place to be. The Premier League is now global.
And does that mean there's a bigger pool of coaches worldwide that want to come here and that are available? And inevitably that means to fewer English coaches working at the top level?
Oh, absolutely. It's exactly the same as works in employment anywhere now. If you are good at your job and there's a place where you being good at your job earns you more money, then you will naturally, all things being equal, seek to be in that place.
Since Wilkinson, 2 Scottish managers have won the title, Sir Alex Ferguson 13 times and Sir Kenny Dalglish. Then you've got a 6-time winner from Spain, a 3-time winner from France, a 3-time winner from Portugal, 4 different managers from Italy, 1 from Chile and 1 from Germany. There have been 0 from England. Just look at the contrast to Europe's other top 5 leagues. The current scene is stark. Only 2 of 20 Premier League managers are English. Newcastle's Eddie Howe and Graham Potter at West Ham. David Moyes is Scottish and Kieran McKenna Northern Irish, although he was born in London. The rest are foreign. 4 from Spain, including 3 from the Basque region, 4 from Portugal, 2 from the Netherlands. Also represented are Denmark, Germany, Italy, Austria, Croatia and Australia. For contrast, the only non-British manager working in the first Premier League season was Joe Kinnear from Ireland. So what do those currently working in the Premier League make of the situation?
I don't think it's surprising me, because I think that's been the case for some time in the Premier League. One of the beauties of the league that we're in, whether you're a player, a manager or a coach, is bringing the best people in the world into the league, into the country, which I think has raised the standard of football and coaching and the product that people see incredibly. And with that, I think there's always I wouldn't say a negative side, but there's always a consequence, and the consequence is that then, if you're bringing the best of the world in and you're opening up opportunities for everybody, then English, British managers will suffer in terms of jobs in the top league.
For me, I'm obviously proud and happy to be here, and it shows how difficult it is. There's only 20 opportunities, there's only 20 clubs, and you consider how many coaches there are in the world, you realise that...
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Now, a 5-year-old boy has successfully received a kidney transplant after his family spent years trying to find the perfect match.
Yeah, Ethan Wilson was born with a rare prune belly syndrome, which affects just 1 in 40,000 babies and endured chronic kidney disease. Now, because Ethan is mixed heritage, Nigerian and English, and has some Scottish heritage, and has type O blood, the search for a compatible kidney was a challenge.
Yeah, earlier this year I spoke to Ethan and his mum Rachel and asked them about the search for a donor.
Ethan's had to start dialysis. His kidneys were failing since birth, but now's come the time where he's on dialysis every night for 12 hours. We do it at home. And he's been on the waiting list for a deceased donor for 2 years. And I guess all the while we're appealing to see whether there's a living donor as well, because that's another option. All of us and our family and friends came forward, and you know, for one reason or another, when we went through the testing, we weren't a good match or not the right donor.
Ethan was so well behaved in that big chair, I remember that. Well, the process for finding a donor, it hasn't been straightforward, and since our last conversation with Ethan, he's had to go through a pooled donation scheme, and in this system, donors aren't a perfect match, but they still play an important role, and they still get matched with recipients, with each donor giving a kidney to someone else, and in return, their own recipient gets a compatible kidney from another donor in the pool, so it's passing passing on
really smart.
that.
Right, well, let's bring in now Ethan and Mum Rachel, who we saw in earlier report. I think that's Dad Ali. And who else is that with you guys?
Hello.
Hey, everyone. And we're also joined by Angel Ogden, whose organ donation helped get Ethan his perfect match. Hi, Angel. Morning to you. Look, guys, thanks so much for being with us. Angel, of course, is a life changer, and Ethan, who's had his life changed. It's great to see you again. Merry Christmas to you. Lovely wave. Rachel, why don't you start us off with just sort of how important this change has been and reflect on that conversation you had with Leah last year?
Yeah, as I said to Leah, it's been such a long time that we've been looking for the kidney for Ethan on the deceased list, and it was just such an amazing miracle when we heard that Angel was one of the prospective donors and came to pass. Really, it was just such a beautiful journey, and it's enabled Ethan to do the things he wants to do in his daily life. Go to school, play with his friends, and just have a bright future.
It's so brilliant, Rachel, to see you all looking so well. And hasn't Ethan grown? My goodness. Just talk us through the process after you left us. What happened next?
After and when Angel came forward.
Yes, so so she had a lot of testing, and then we were kind of kept up to date by the coordinator. But it takes maybe six months, I suppose, which in the grand scheme of things was quick, really.
We got told it was going into the computer to match, to do the swap.
The matching, there's like a meeting once every 3 months, and they match all the pairs. So it kind of sounded quite daunting, that process. But then the next day they just said, we found you a match. I think you can do it normally up to 8 times. So that was amazing. We were matched the first time.
And then it was quite a whirlwind after that. It all happened quite quickly because that was the end of July. And then by mid-August, we had the date, which was the 3rd of September. And it all happened.
Clearly,
brilliant,
life-changing. And I tell you, it's no easy feat to keep 2 kids contained in live TV.
I've got the one, and I know how hard it is. So you guys are doing brilliant. We're going to bring Angel in for a minute now, so just stay with us. And Angel, we've been talking about you, but why don't you tell us how you got involved in this sort of life-changing moment for this family?
I mean, I saw the appeal on ITV, and when I saw the story, I just was taken back by Ethan's story. So I signed up. I spoke to a CLT and just wanted to ask them about the process. I put forward my interest to be a donor. And like I say, the process went quite quick. Because I'm a blood type O, it was quite a rare blood type. So I felt that this would be something. Once I'd done the test, we went into the pool system. And like Rachel said, it was a very quick process. I found out that I wouldn't match Ethan, but I would match somebody else that could.
Yeah. And Angel, you know, this is quite a thing to do. It's huge, isn't it? But there is a lack of donors coming forward from Black and ethnic groups. Talk to us a little bit about the process, what it was, the toll on your body. And I suppose what I'm trying to get at is to encourage more people to do what you have done, because it's changed lives, hasn't it?
It has. Again, it's the medical science is so advanced. I mean, the testing system for me is really intense, but it was really done to the fine tune. So they really look after you, the hospital. But like I said, the medical science is so advanced. I had a keyhole with a robotic operation. My healing process has been so fast. I mean, I'm fully fit now. After the 3rd of September, I had about a month and a half off, and I was walking after the second day. But like I say, they are constantly monitoring you, and the support that you're getting through the hospital and all of the agencies is really powerful. So to me, the message would be, it's just about education. We're so advanced now. The operation process is so different, and like the healing process is such a quick process. So I could vouch for the fact that my body feels amazing, and I feel like I've not even had an operation.
That's incredible. We're looking at the split screen of the kids messing around while you're talking, Angel. It's a beautiful thing that we're seeing here. It's very funny. But Angel, I want to ask you one more question, because I mean, what you have done is you have changed your life by giving up part of your body. That is an incredible thing to have done. It's a blessing that you've given to that family. I wonder what your family said to you when you said, I'm about to go and do this.
Well, my family were sceptical. They were concerned, naturally. But like I said to my family, if it was me and I was a child and none of my family members could donate to me, and we were then reaching out to the wider community, we would hope that somebody would do what I've done. So it's just, they were more in the space of, we're concerned of your safety. But I thought, okay, well, if I was a child and it was me and you needed it, you would probably want the same response. So hopefully my twin sister might be going ahead to do it as well. So
Wow.
Amazing. That is so amazing. Rachel, to you, I mean, you're basically handling two little rascals there, and that's a wonderful thing to say,
Who is the little one
it?
on your knee, Rachel? Because we know, Ethan, who have you got on your knee, Rachel?
Who have I got?
Who's on your...
Sorry.
Yeah, who's Ethan's sibling?
Oh, Theo.
Theo. Hello, Theo.
Hello, Theo.
Hello, Theo. He was tucked away in a carrier when we last came up to see you.
Ah, I see. You do well, mate. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Theo.
I mean, you've heard the Angel story, and of course you know how giving that has been. And you've talked to us about the change it's made in your life now, but just talk to us about your thoughts now for the future, I guess, and sort of where you go from here now that this chapter is hopefully going to be closing and you're moving forward.
Ethan's just on his recovery journey, really, and I hope it's just going to be for us like some sense of normality. And I think just the feeling of gratefulness for someone who's done something so selfless and who's now also a part of our story. And you know, the kids have now an honorary aunt, and they got on so well. You know, when they met in person, it was just such a beautiful day. And so I think just for Ethan and all of us to kind of get back to just normal family routines.
And we're gonna finally get to go abroad with him and go on holiday abroad. So Ethan hasn't flown or been abroad yet. So we're gonna give that a go hopefully in the new year.
OK, guys, it's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing it with us here this morning, Rachel and Angel and Ethan. It's just a great story, isn't it?
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Brilliant chaos. I love that.
God. Incredible. How giving and just wonderful that lives have been changed. All right, let's look at the morning newspapers. After this break, we're going to be joined once again by Kevin Schofield and by Charlotte Griffiths.
This is how you travel when the mafia wants to kill you.
He's almost given up his own freedom, but that's the price he's willing to pay.
Here, they don't just arrest and Ndrangheta mafia members, they also live among them.
Time after time, I've seen the devastating impact of extreme weather and climate change.
We don't have much snow at the moment.
They've had a warm spring and exceptionally hot summer, and that means they're expecting to lose more than 3 times the amount of ice than they usually do.
Flames are still forcing people from their homes and leaving many questioning their futures.
Here was my life. We have nothing. I can't say anything, it's so sad.
This disaster is testing the resolve of everyone on this island.
The only way out now is by boat.
Everything you see is devastated, and the misery being felt by people living here is repeated in towns and villages across Central Europe. Sky News, get the full story first.
Turkey is burying its dead. The loss is profound.
Whole families died in this collapse, generations wiped out.
The violence has penetrated the heart of the city rather than being contained to the estates around the edge, and that speaks to the level of anger being felt here. In Sweden, police have seized a lethal stash. This is just a small sample of the deadly arsenal taken off the streets.
This is an example of an advert, really. Anyone of any age could say, I'll do that for £1 million, and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes.
I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you.
So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think? It's really unusual. Mornings with Roger and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
Hello again. Time for our news review. Pleased to say this morning we're joined by HuffPost UK's political editor, Kevin Schofield, and the Mail on Sunday's editor-at-large, it's Charlotte Griffiths. Thank you so much for your time this Sunday. Really appreciate it. Let's kick off then, shall we? Kevin, The Telegraph. Rayner joins fight to ditch Lammy's cuts to jury trials. Tell us more.
Yeah, so, you know, David Lammy, he's provoked a bit of a storm of controversy really over this suggestion, and there's a growing Labour rebellion against it, which is remarkable really when you think the size of Labour's majority. You speak to some of these rebels and they'll say, this will never happen, you know. If it goes to a vote and we need the numbers, we'll get the numbers, because it's just, there's so much anger. It wasn't in Labour's manifesto. Labour MPs just like, this is not the type of thing that we should be doing. But according to the Sunday Telegraph, they've got a big hitter now supporting them in Angela Rayner. Now, it's obviously interesting that she was Deputy Prime Minister. Keir Starmer said last week he'd like to get her back. He's going to have to get his skates on and get her back before she can join this rebellion, because, you know, having a big figurehead like this gives it more weight and just piles the pressure on Keir Starmer. And it's just interesting, we were talking earlier about Andy Burnham being in potential leadership. Angela Rayner would definitely be in it to win it as well if the time came. So I think it's interesting to see that she's willing to be a thorn in the government side.
And all the while, more infighting within government. It's never a good look to the electorate, is it?
No, definitely not. And this is what they promised they would change, all this infighting and, you know, to have Rayner come in and sort of stand up for the working classes and, you know, the government versus the people, and she's on the side of the people when she's actually formerly part of the government. It's a mess, isn't it, from the outside looking in? It's the last thing they want.
And this has a through line as well, sorry, just occurred to me, to violence against women challenge, because one of David Lammy's arguments is to do this was to try and make sure that there were high conviction rates for rape and sexual assault. He's actually criticised for being a bit cynical in doing that. And
Definitely. And I spoke one Labour MP who's against it. I spoke to him and he said that's just a red herring. He said that, and it's deeply cynical to be using such an emotive subject to try and make the case for these changes, because what he said to me was that there's already mechanisms in place so that those types of crimes are expedited through the system. So the idea that you need to do this to speed up justice for rape victims is completely bogus.
Yeah, well, that's the argument you made to Sophie Ridge, and, as you say, rightly criticised for it. All right, where are we going next?
We're going to go to the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte, and this is revelations that came out of Virginia Giuffre's posthumous book that Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, essentially got his to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre using her date of birth, her social security number, to his personal advisor. That was passed on to the Metropolitan Police. They have since come back and said there is no ground for a criminal investigation. So that's where we're at the moment with this story.
Yeah, that's where we're at. And the family of Virginia Giuffre are angry about this because they say, so it was an 8-week assessment. They said they got emailed by the Met Police, I think a day ago, 24 hours ago, basically. And they said, have you got any evidence? They didn't have a chance to reply because of the short window. And then the Met announced, we're dropping it all. And they're saying, well, we didn't have a chance to reply. Why did they wait so long to email us in the first place? And why didn't they mention in that email to us that they were planning to drop it. You know, it's just something, it feels a bit off. It feels like they were box ticking. They weren't really planning to look into it. Or this is their perception anyway. Like, they weren't really planning to look into it in any meaningful way. And at the very end, they quickly emailed the family of Virginia just to check if they had any evidence, and then went ahead and dropped the probe anyway.
Yeah, the former Duke of York, he vehemently denies any wrongdoing with this, with any allegations of sex with Virginia Giuffre. But potentially it doesn't stop there, because the Met Police are saying if they do receive any additional information, well, then they'll follow it up. So it isn't a closed door, theoretically.
Yeah, it isn't a closed door, but it has angered the family, and the family have now spoken out against the Met Police. So that's just, it's highly embarrassing. But, of course, the Epstein files are, you know, are all about to come to light. So who knows, there could be another round. And meanwhile, the Mail on Sundays reported that, you know, Andrew's preparing after Christmas to move into his shoebox-sized house.
Oh, glad you went to that. Yeah, shoebox. I think it's a 5-bed.
It does suggest
shoebox.
it does suggest that he is going to be laying low in 2026 in anticipation of further developments. But yeah, I mean, is it a showbox? I think compared to Royal Lodge, which has 30 rooms, I think it was 13 bedrooms, it is a bit of a shoebox. And actually, he's having trouble with his furniture because he's moving stuff out, but obviously he's downsizing. We've all been there with the downsizing, especially our parents and things. Where does he put it all? But, you know, it's not just an IKEA sofa. It's a sort of large, marble, beautiful, stunning cabinet, probably knowing him. So a lot of it's going into storage.
You can see why the King decided to cut my drift, because these stories just aren't going away.
It's a mess still, yeah. It's still
so many stories still to come, I think.
All right, where are we going on to
Right
next?
then, we're going to go on to the Mirror and this flu tsunami.
Oh, yeah. Talking about this yesterday, weren't we?
The Health Secretary Wes Streeting, he's going to battle with the BMA over the resident doctors' strikes. So you've got that in the background. But he was talking about how this super flu, this tsunami flu, is really going to cripple the NHS in a way potentially we haven't seen before. And so, you know, at odds, this Labour government is at odds with this huge union. While there's potentially the worst flu we've seen since the pandemic.
Since the
it's
pandemic.
not great.
Yeah, I mean, it is the perfect storm. In a way, it does play into Wes Streeting, another Labour leadership contender, as you mentioned.
Oh, they're all there.
It does play into his hands because, you know, he has been, before this outbreak, very critical of the BMA. You know, gave them a big pay deal last year to stop the strikes when they first came into office, and now they've just come back for more. He's very angry, so this gives him a massive stick to beat them with. You know, he says it's unconscionable to be going ahead with a strike at a time of a flu epidemic such as this. And he says, really punchy, really, it's no exaggeration to say the BMA will have chosen to put lives at risk this Christmas. You know, really ramping up the rhetoric. The BMA, though, don't seem to be in the mood to back down, so it's become a real test of strength.
We'll find out tomorrow whether they've accepted the terms and they're going to call off this strike. I mean, from the reporting this morning, it seems as if it's in the balance. I don't think anyone knows quite which way it's going to go.
It's also interesting. I was thinking earlier, you know, unlike us journalists, the public have always been in favour of doctors and respected and backed doctors, whether it's pay, working conditions. But there is a sense that potentially, on this one in particular, that maybe the BMA haven't got this right. Maybe there's a political thread that's running through the BMA on this one.
Yeah, well, the story does say that 58% of the public, according to YouGov, don't support the strikes. So, you know, so Wes Street might have the public on his side.
I did a poll of the paper on my phone this morning and did that, and it was 93% don't support.
I'm not surprised by that. I was quite surprised. I thought 58% was quite low when I read this article. 98% sounds a bit more on point, especially as people we know are now dropping like flies with this flu. So the public out there will be thinking, God, my grandmother has it, my aunt has it, my nephew has it. Because I'm really starting to see in my own social group, people are getting it really badly at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, next we are going... This is in the Mail, isn't it, Charlie? You're talking us through this booze flash. I love the headline. Tell us what it's all about.
This is very disappointing because one of my favourite life hacks is to eat a pizza or some carbs before going out drinking. And apparently it doesn't make any difference.
But I thought you need to eat something before you go to sleep, a glass of water.
You're getting it all wrong.
Eat something and then go to sleep.
The secret is 1 for 1. That's the secret. 1 glass of booze with 1 glass of water. Anyway, sorry.
But after the second glass of booze, I'm like, I've never heard of water. Any of that. Also, we learnt a new word today, didn't we? Which is clinophilia.
Okay.
Which is in this article. That's the desire, strong desire to stay in bed after drinking. And this isn't cured by eating before drinking. So I suppose, eating after drinking is the solution.
It says eat before
Like
you
a
go to
kebab?
bed.
I
Helps
think
it a little
it's,
bit.
Yeah, I think it's that.
Yeah, that does help.
Get a kebab on the way home.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That is good.
So I haven't,
good.
which
That
I definitely
explains
didn't do
why we
earlier
all-
this week.
all
I mean,
crave the
the
kebab.
idea about lining your stomach, I never thought as a student it was to avoid the hangover. It was just to mean that you could drink more beer.
Absorb, yes,
Exactly.
absorb. And they used to say eating's cheating,
Eating's
didn't they,
cheating,
at
that's what a
university,
friend
which
used
is
to tell me
terrible.
that.
So if you wanted to get drunk cheaply, don't eat beforehand. And then it only takes you a pint to get
If you
drunk.
got caught eating, while drinking, it was like a terrible
it's a bad
social
thing.
faux pas. You are trying
Thank
to get
God
it.
we're not students anymore.
Absolutely.
Believe it.
Okay,
Responsibly, everyone.
if it's not mixing drinks and having hangovers, it's dating apps. Kevin, talk us through this new
Hold
dating.
on, you didn't read the whole thing. Dating apps for...
Cows?
Yes. Tinder for cows, as it's been.
What?
It's been called.
humans.
There is an app. No. Listen, cows need love as well. So, there's a thing called the Herd Plus app, which basically matches. It's not. There's no romance involved here. It matches cows with the right bull to improve. Milk, for instance, beef production, and this is being used on a farm in Ireland that produces the cows that make the milk for Bailey's Irish Cream.
Oh, it's got a Christmas thread running through.
We keep coming back to it. But yeah, so the cows wear a moo monitor, as it's been called, which sensors, records their vital signs. They then put what they need into the farmers put what they need into like an app, and they get a match straight away. And the bill comes round.
I think that sounds perfectly...
It's timely, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's timely because the mating season for...
They have mating season?
Is from autumn and it begins after Christmas, so...
Although it does...
Timely.
But it also says it doesn't sound like as much fun of it. It's collected from the bulls and frozen in liquid nitrogen, and then it's artificial insemination.
There's no love there.
It's
not as romantic.
Anything? I've no extra gags to add to that. So, guys, thanks so much. Brilliant stuff. Enjoy the rest of your Sundays. We'll see you again really soon, and we'll see you guys very soon after this short break.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist. A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond. You're like, what?
A historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
Hello there and a very good morning. It is 8 a.m. and this is Mornings on Sky News. I'm Kamali.
And I'm Leah. Thank you for starting your day with us. This is how things are looking.
A manhunt underway after 2 people are killed and a number injured in a mass shooting at Brown University in the United States. Police have released this footage of a suspect as students and local people have been told to stay indoors.
The government claimed violence against women and girls is being treated as a fact of life in modern Britain as the Home Secretary declares a national emergency.
A former border chief tells Sky News controlling small boat crossings relies on the weather rather than enforcement, as dozens crossed the channel yesterday after 28 days of no crossings.
And I'll be live at 8:30 on Sunday morning with Trevor Phillips. Today with Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, her Conservative opposite number Chris Philp, and BMA Chair Dr. Tom Dolphin.
We begin the programme with a developing story. It's in the US and 2 people have been killed and 9 injured. It's in a shooting at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. The gunman, we know so far, is still at large and people in the area have been urged to stay indoors.
Yeah, the shooting is said to have happened inside a classroom on the first floor of the engineering building on campus as students were taking final exams. Now, students there at Brown, which is an Ivy League elite college, described turning off lights and then hiding under the desk for hours in the hope that the shooter wouldn't discover them.
Sky's US correspondent Martha Kellner reports.
Inside one of America's most prestigious universities, armed police stalk corridors searching for their suspect. A man who brought terror to the Brown University campus, shooting students dead while end-of-year exams were taking place. This is the only video police have of the gunman striding away from the scene. The hope that someone might recognise him by his clothing or the way he walks.
He's going to be wearing dark clothing. You're not going to be able to see his face. Dark grey or black clothing. And some of the witnesses have also told us that he may have been wearing a camouflage grey mask. That is unconfirmed. But if anybody should recognise this person in any way, seen him earlier, recognise his gait, obviously we want to know about that.
Several hours after the first shots were fired, the community still being urged to shelter in place in classrooms, homes or dormitories. Students are evacuated onto buses, a reminder of the reality of America's gun violence epidemic 2 weeks before Christmas. This is where the shooting took place, inside the School of Engineering, in a classroom on the first floor. Doors which would usually have been locked were open because of exams.
There were 3 other students with me. We decided to turn the light off and close all the doors and hide under our desks and wait for the next notification after the shooting.
How long did you hide for?
I think it was about 2 hours or so. We heard a lot of noise by the police outside our lab, and I also received a notification that they want everyone to get out of the building so that they can search every corner of the building to hunt for the shooter.
The campus was swarmed by 400 officers searching for the gunman. This is a small city where violence like this is unfamiliar. There were only 2 murders here this year until now.
Sadly, today is a day that the city of Providence and the state of Rhode Island prayed would never come. We've heard about horrific acts of gun violence and active shooter situations in other places, but not here. But this afternoon at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we received a call. 4:05 was when the initial call came in to Brown University of a report of an active shooter.
The president also offering support to the victims.
I've been fully briefed on the Brown University situation, what a terrible thing it is. And all we can do right now is pray for the victims and for those that were very badly hurt, it looks like. And we'll inform you later as to what's happening, but it's a shame. It's a shame. Just pray. Thank you very much.
As the search for the shooter enters a second day, this campus remains locked down and the surrounding area on high alert. As they hunt for the man responsible, authorities here know that every minute matters. Martha Kellner, Sky News.
OK, back here, specialist teams to investigate rape and other sex offences are to be introduced to every police force in England and Wales.
Yeah, it's part of reforms being introduced by the government as part of their effort to tackle violence against women and girls. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has declared a national emergency. Well, let's bring in our correspondent, Oliver Whitfield-Mircic, for a bit more on this. Ollie, morning to you. So what is the latest that we do have on this decision by the government?
So the Commissioner of the Met Police, Mark Rowley, says he welcomes this announcement that every police force in England and Wales is going to be having a specialist team who's going to investigate rape and other sex offences, because the statistics around this are really stark. 200 rapes are reported on average to police forces in England and Wales every single day. But we know that that is potentially just the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of women who don't report their experience to the police for a whole number of different reasons. Now, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has announced this raft of measures. Let's take a look at how they're going to work. So those specialist investigation teams will be in place in every police force by 2029. There are also plans to widen a disclosure scheme to allow women to know if their partners have previous convictions for sexual assault, stalking, or harassment, and the government is looking at reforming human rights law so migrant sex offenders can be stripped of refugee protections and deported more quickly.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because whoever you talk to, and I'm thinking aunts, cousins, we'll all have a story as a woman of experiencing, and it might not be dramatic, it might not be what you feel is very big, it might be on that tube carriage where you feel like actually there's someone too close, but you don't feel safe enough to go and report that. You don't feel it's big enough, and that's talking from personal experience there. And we were talking to Georgia Theodoulou earlier in the programme, and she was saying she welcomed it, but she said actually funding is going to be a big issue here, and I suppose reaction to all of this will be key.
Yeah, funding, a big part of it. The chairs of 3 select committees in Parliament had actually written to junior ministers in the Home Office. This is from the Home Affairs, Women and Equalities and Justice Committees, voicing their concerns, saying, you know, this has been repeatedly delayed. The government was meant to introduce this in spring, then delayed to summer, then autumn, now we're in winter. We're finally going to be getting it. And they say that some of the leading charities and some of the smallest charities in the sector feel like they haven't been heard during this consultation process. We have heard from the guests that you mentioned there some cautious optimism. At least the government is recognising the scale of this, labelling it a national emergency. But the Conservatives say it's too little too late, considering the delays that have happened. And they've accused the government of voting against tougher sentences, something that the Conservatives said that they would bring in. And the Conservatives say that they're the party that would protect women and girls.
Well, Ollie, thank you so much for that. The Home Secretary has written in the papers this morning, but we're going to hear from her in, about 20 minutes anyway on Trevor Phillips' show, so we'll get her perspective as to why she decided to do this at this time. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's coming up very shortly. Well, moving on then, because the Home Secretary, well, she has quite an in-trade, doesn't she? And there's another major challenge she's facing, and that's tackling migration. Hundreds of migrants crossed the Channel to the UK just yesterday after the longest pause in arrivals in 7 years.
Yeah, until then, there'd been no one arriving on small boats for 28 days. Our People and Politics correspondent, Nick Martin, has this.
After nearly a month of no crossings, the small boats returned. A Border Force vessel recovered dozens of people who've attempted to cross the English Channel to reach the United Kingdom. It has been 28 days since the last small boat crossing, the longest pause since 2018. In 2024, a total of 36,816 people made the crossing. So far this year, the number has risen to 39,292. An increase of 2,476 people. The Home Office describes the scale of boat crossings as shameful and says it's getting tough on migration, including a one-in, one-out policy, which has already seen 150 migrants returned, as well as pledging at least £500 million to help French authorities stop crossings in the first place. But critics argue the numbers show crossings remain stubbornly high, with weather, not policy, still driving short-term changes.
It's a bit worrying that this whole thing relies on the weather to actually stem the tide of irregular migration. And I think the way to actually view it, in my view, if I was, part of the Home Office, is if we've got a respite now, then let's see what we can do in order to try and ratchet things up in terms of enforcement activity to make sure that this respite continues.
Say it loud, say it clear.
In the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's constituency in Birmingham, protesters gathered to oppose the government's stricter migration plans.
The reason these crossings are actually happening is because the government is shutting down safe routes for genuine asylum seekers and people who are seeking safety here to actually cross. Now, the thing is that based on basic human rights, anyone who's fleeing war or genocide or persecution has the right to come here in whatever way that they can.
The end of a 28-day pause in small boat crossings has once again exposed the fragility of the government's migration promise. Nick Martin, Sky News.
Now, the practice of gay conversion therapy remains legal in the UK, despite repeated efforts by governments to ban them. More than 50 years after homosexuality was decriminalised, the practice still goes on.
Well, the government pledged to ban it back in 2018, but that ban still hasn't happened. And Sky's Jason Mansoray looks at why the promised legislation has stalled, speaking to both supporters and critics of the proposed ban.
And ban conversion therapy.
Legislation will also be introduced to ban conversion therapy. A draft bill will be brought forward to ban conversion practices.
Two Queen's speeches under the Conservatives, a Labour King's speech, and this government's manifesto of promise to ban gay conversion practices, also known as gay conversion therapy. The practice is described as any attempt to change, cure, or suppress a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. It's still legal in the UK. Arguments around freedom of speech, education, and ethics make this a divisive issue and has slowed a bill's passage into law. How it interacts with faith, another stumbling block for lawmakers, evident in the division among some parts of Christianity.
That is a massive change in how we would understand freedom of speech, conscience, religion.
And some Christians have come forward saying they have experienced harm, myself included.
Living Out is a Christian charity. They say their work helps people, churches and society talk about faith and sexuality. For LGBT+ Christians, they promote abstinence or marrying the opposite sex. If a bill was signed into law, this could be considered a conversion practice.
What they're saying is wrong is someone like me saying that I believe that gay sex is wrong to somebody and that is a gay conversion practice. Now, if that's the case, that is a massive change in how we would understand freedom of speech, conscience, religion.
In a draft seen by Sky News, it is defined as any practice to A, change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity, or B, suppress a person's expression of sexual orientation or gender identity.
The definitions that you guys follow, which is the Evangelical Alliance, there is wording about transforming one's sexuality and how you can live in God's grace, and that is not by being an active same-sex attracted person. So can you understand why I might sit here and say, is that not asking someone to suppress or change their sexuality?
If suppression is saying to me, as I think Jesus says to me, you should not be in a same-sex relationship with another man, if that's suppression, Living Out is guilty of suppression in repeating the instruction that Jesus Christ gives to his people that sex is for marriage between a man and a woman.
The Living Out website offers articles, podcasts, testimonials and teaching courses.
Living Out were probably the place that my type of church would direct people to engage with questions of sexuality.
Struggling with his faith and sexuality, Simon became involved with the organisation, but didn't get the help he'd hoped for.
I felt trapped by these feelings of loneliness paired with the feeling that my community thinks that God would put me in hell forever if I didn't do what was being presented as the only pathway forwards.
Shouldn't we allow Christians to be able to sort of teach this and say, marry a woman or abstain?
No one is telling Christians that the law is going to stop them from believing one thing or another. I think what's being proposed is stopping Christians from forcing other Christians to believe one thing or another, or else be punished.
A government spokesperson told Sky News they are planning to publish a draft bill before the current parliamentary session ends next spring, adding conversion practices are abuse and that they will introduce legislation to finally ban it.
I would like the next gay teenager going through the journey that the steps that I've had to walk through. I'd like them to be able to explore their faith and different options, knowing that they won't be punished.
Brazil, Canada and Germany are among countries with full or partial conversion practice bans. But with no bill introduced yet, it is uncertain when and if the UK will join them. Jason Mansoret, Sky News.
And if you've been affected by any issue raised in that story, you can contact the Samaritans on 116 123 or joe@samaritans.org.
Yeah. Now, we are approaching Christmas, so the sign of fresh, juicy strawberries is probably not the first thing that comes to anyone's mind, but thanks to one farm, that's about to change.
It is. While most of us rely on imports with a big carbon footprint, this British farm is growing strawberries all year round with the help of LED technology, and festive season they're aiming to harvest 1.5 million punnets. Our correspondent Emma Birchley has the story.
Blue skies and berries as far as the eye can see. But this is West Sussex in winter, so it's not exactly what you'd expect. The day after being picked, though, these strawberries will be on a shop shelf on British soil.
The LED lighting is the prime reason for successful growing. So we're producing here enough energy for the plant, so the leaf receive that energy from either sunshine. Lovely day today, so we're lucky today. But if that was not a sunny day today, the LED lighting would create enough energy for the leaves to absorb that energy, take it in, and deliver the energy to the berries, which comes also with sweetness and size.
In fact, here in Chichester, they've installed 36,000 square metres of LED-lit glass houses, enabling the country's first commercial-scale year-round production of beautiful berries. Bartosz is expecting they'll fill 1.5 million punnets this winter, all while ensuring year-round work for 50 people and for the micro-predators lurking in this sawdust.
What we're trying to do is we create an ecosystem for these little bugs to control certain pests.
The vast greenhouses are partially powered by renewable energy, creating spring-like conditions in December, so no air miles clocked up importing from Egypt. And this fruit is only picked once it's ripe and ready, rather than green around the edges. But inevitably there is an impact from creating a space warm enough for short sleeves.
You're going to need a lot of heat and you're going to need a lot of light in order to reproduce those summer growing conditions. So everything hinges on the energy source that you're going to be using. And when we look at the UK self-sufficiency levels in fruit and vegetable, they are appalling. 16% of the fruit we consume is UK grown. So the vast majority is imported. And when it comes to vegetables, we're looking more at about 50% or so. So there's a lot more that we can be doing to build up and should be doing.
For some, it's simple. Strawberries should be saved for summer. But demand has soared in recent years. And at least this way, it's a much shorter journey from plant to plate. Emma Birchley, Sky News.
Well, Jackie, what do you reckon about those LED-grown strawberries?
I think they look lovely because, you know, let's be honest, strawberries at this time of year are rubbish.
Not the best, are they? Not the best.
They're like rocks, they taste of nothing, they're white.
Transported in from all over the place. No, not the one.
Yeah. rubbish, unlike the Premier League. Although Arsenal were a little bit wobbly yesterday, they did survive a late scare against Wolves. Also, Mo Salah makes history on his return to Liverpool. But was it his final appearance for the club?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist? I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up. Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is why it hasn't been stopped.
Jackie, we're going to look at some of the football from last night, but also there's some decent games to look ahead to today as well, right?
Yeah, there are. There's loads of matches today. But I think the main talking point over the weekend, and if you look at any paper this morning, everybody was on Mo Salah watch. What's going to happen? He was on the bench, he came on. Would he get a good reception? But yes, he did get a good... It was a very warm reception. What would happen at the end? Well, his family were in the box, so he did call his family over to watch this match. He did wave to all four corners of the ground, touch the badge, all of that. I think he does that anyway. And when he walked through the mix zone, strolled through, he was quite jaunty. And they said, interview again? He went, no, 2 weeks in a row. No.
Not doing it. Nothing else to say.
Not doing that one again. Let's have a look at the goals.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Sorry, I just have a German passport. Hopefully I can convince them and show them and prove them that I'm proud to be the English manager.
For only the third time in history, the FA have turned to a foreign manager to take charge of the men's England team. Thomas Tuchel follows in the footsteps of Sven-Göran Eriksson.
If we don't do results, of course, they will try to hang me, but even if I was an Englishman, they hang me. So that's...
And Fabio Capello.
A winner with a capital W. That was the template. This is the man.
When the news about Tuchel broke, there was a mixed media reaction. Some in Tuchel see a Champions League winning manager and the best candidate available if you want to win a World Cup. That's certainly how the FA bosses view it. But for others, there's a more fundamental principle here. They believe that an Englishman should be in charge of England.
Well, I was hoping we'd get an English manager, but when you look at the choices, they're very few, aren't they?
The jobs are so prestigious and there's so much money in the job that people are tempted to spread the net wide.
There's nothing in the water that stops it. It's all about opportunity. I think it's probably a little bit simplistic just to put it down to national borders.
On whichever side of the debate you fall, there is one fact which is indisputable. The pool of English coaches at the elite level of the game is pretty shallow. And the key question is, why?
What we are deemed as English coaches, we're responsible for.
Do you feel like to get a job in the Premier League as an Englishman, you have to be promoted to the division?
I would say 99 times out of 100. You can't just give people jobs.
I want to try and help in any way that I can produce more English managers.
I'm at St George's Park. Opened in 2012, the FA intended this place to be a centre of excellence and a destination of choice for players, coaches, administrators and officials alike. Why have the FA turned to the continent to replace an English manager who's been...
Sky Business sponsors this report.
We're looking forward to some of that football later, Jackie. Thank you.
That'd be good.
For now, Leah, thanks for being with us
Pleasure.
on mornings. Let's do this again real soon. Coming up next, Trevor Phillips.
11 days to Christmas. If you're a government minister and you're hoping for something nice from Santa, it's not looking good. Nobody's getting a partridge in a pear tree this year. The last thing the Home Secretary wanted to see were 3 ships sailing. Yesterday, the wind dropped, and so did more than 500 illegal migrants. Shabana Mahmood's getting tough on immigration. The public might like it, but critics in her own party aren't carolling joy to the world. And over in the health department, flus are coming in, and the doctors are walking out. Happy Christmas, Wes. We'll speak to the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, and her opposite number in the Conservatives, Chris Philp. And we'll get some immediate reaction to what the Home Secretary says about the grooming gang's inquiry with survivor Fiona Goddard. Also, with growing concern over a flu crisis, just as resident doctors threaten to strike again, I'll be joined by British Medical Association Chair Dr. Tom Dolphin. Plus, with us throughout the show, broadcaster, columnist and former Labour advisor Sonia Soda, author and broadcaster Ian Dale, and co-founder of the Centre for Social Justice and Reform activist Tim Montgomery. Welcome to Sunday Morning with Trevor Phillips. President Lyndon Baines Johnson said that the first rule of politics is learn how to count. If you are the Labour or Conservative leader, your sinking poll numbers make counting that much simpler than a year ago. You could just use your fingers and toes. After all, neither party is breaking 20% support amongst the voting public. Nigel Farage's reform, on the other hand, has consistently been racking up around 30% for months. Of course, it's probably years until the next election. A lot could change. But what is important about populists, particularly those on the right, is the pressure they're already exerting on the traditional parties. Internationally, the old guard is buckling. Centre-left leaders in France, Germany, Sweden, Holland and Denmark are adopting the sort of immigration policies they used to decry as racist. Here, Keir Starmer's negotiating deals with other countries that look suspiciously like the Rwanda scheme. Mrs. Badenoch now says she'll leave the European Convention on Human Rights and looks set to lift the hearts of petrol heads everywhere by pushing back electric vehicle mandates by years. I think the populists have added a whole new dimension to that LBJ maxim. In a volatile democracy with 5, possibly 6 parties jostling for votes and a few percentage points the difference between a hung parliament and a landslide, a party really doesn't have to be in office to be in power. Let's start this morning with the government. A few moments ago, I spoke to Shabana Mahmood. Home Secretary, how serious is the flu outbreak we're facing?
Well, it is very serious. We're already seeing the impact it's having on hospitals across the country. We always plan every single year for a flu outbreak, and that's what's happened this year. But of course, I think the numbers are a bit more serious this year, and that's why the Health Secretary, the Prime Minister and everyone across government wants to make sure that the planned strikes by resident doctors do not go ahead. The NHS is under huge strain at the moment, and the last thing anybody needs to see are strikes in the NHS.
Is that your message to the BMA chair? Because I'll be talking to him later.
Yes, very much so. I think that the government has made a fresh offer. There's a new deal on the table. It deals with some of the issues relating to resident doctors' conditions that they've been worried about, particularly on training places. The Health Secretary has said we'll make more of those available. He's willing to pass emergency legislation to make that a reality. I think it's a good deal. And I really would say to all resident doctors watching today, it's a good deal. They should take it.
What's your reaction to the way that the doctors have dealt with this? There are people who think that they are now putting lives at risk.
Well, I think it's undoubtedly the case that any strikes in the NHS do put lives at risk. We want to make sure that the NHS is supported through a difficult winter and through this particular flu outbreak that we're seeing at the moment. And I just think it's really important that everybody realises what's at stake here. I do think there's a bit of a difference between the stance that the leadership of the resident doctors has taken and individual views of those doctors themselves. And I would just say to everybody, wherever they sit within the resident doctors sort of community, there's a good offer on the table. There's been a 30% increase in the pay of resident doctors. It's well deserved. These are very hard-working public servants, but they have seen the best pay deal of anyone in the public sector. I think the government has shown its bona fides here in supporting resident doctors, and I really do wish that they would take that deal on the table.
Today, you are calling violence against women and girls in this country a national emergency. You're planning to introduce specialist police squads. Now, the Institute for Government says that 50% of the police officers currently on sexual violence and rape squads are trainees. I mean, how are you going to get these squads to work? Is it your intention to move experienced officers from other duties into this area?
Well, look, firstly, it is a national emergency, and what we will be publishing next week is a strategy across the whole of government, a real change in the way that we look at the whole issue of violence against women and girls. We're not willing to treat this as a fact of life, and we want to go further on dealing with perpetrators and make sure that the whole system is geared up in a way that it can actually deliver justice for victims of these terrible crimes. And that's why the rape and sexual offence units in every police force by the end of this Parliament is a really crucial part of what we're saying we're going to do. It isn't just about trainees. What I want to see the step change here is this is seen as business as usual for the police. It's so pervasive, these crimes, violence against women and girls, that it's really important that all police forces are capable of dealing appropriately, sensitively, context-driven, focus on the suspects when women come to them with an allegation of rape or other sexual offences.
But if they're going to deal with these crimes, they're as serious as you say, they've got to have both the capability and the resource. The point about the current squads, and then they're not going to be as big as the ones that you want to set in place. They don't actually have the senior people. They don't have the people with experience in them right now, and you want to make them even more significant. Where are you going to get the people to staff them?
It's a postcode lottery at the moment. If you're a victim, in terms of the standard of service you're going to get when your allegation is being investigated by the police and whether that is going to lead to charges ultimately and hopefully a successful prosecution. We want to turn that around. That's why we do think it has to be a national programme of making sure that these teams are rolled out across the country. And what I would say to you is, at the moment, the police are working to up their game on how they respond to rape and sexual offence cases. And what we're saying is that we want to build on that, but make sure that there is a specialist team in every force. So I don't think that what we're saying here is that there's nothing good happening at the moment. We want to build on what's happening at the moment. We have a national centre for violence against women and girls and public protection. They will work with police forces to make this real and make it effective.
The reason I'm really asking about this is we can see what the promise is. But are the resources there? Let's take another one of the proposals you're making, a specialist team of, let's call them techies, to do covert investigation into online crime, a kind of geek squad, I guess. But you're investing just £2 million. That's barely enough to fund a couple of dozen experienced cyber hackers with their laptops. I mean, that doesn't get anywhere near the scale of the problem.
Well, just firstly, on resources for the specialist teams, the resources are there. This is a question of making sure every force ensures that they have the capability to deal with these sorts of cases in an appropriate way, learning all of the lessons that we've seen.
The £2 million is not much, is it?
On the undercover operatives, that's going to be a pilot scheme, £2 million for 18 months, because we've never gone into the online space looking at violence against women and girls specifically. We have a good track record on child sexual abuse and using undercover operatives to tackle that. We've already safeguarded, thousands of children on that, using that scheme, and we brought over 1,000 charges as well for people committing child sexual abuse offences. So we want to take the learning from that and apply it to violence against women and girls. The offences and how they present themselves online are different. So this is a first attempt to try and learn some lessons, see the sort of intel that we can pick up, share it with Ofcom so they can take measures against some of those platforms. So it is a good start, I think, going into a new area, because we know the online space is also dangerous for women and girls.
Well, exactly. Can I ask you a broader question about the online space, as you put it? You want to change the attitude of boys and young men who they follow people like Andrew Tate. Is it really the state's business to be looking over the shoulders of teenagers?
Well, I think that when you know that 1 in 8 women in this country in the last year were victims of domestic abuse, sexual assault and other violence against women and girls offences, that is a huge number. This is a massive problem for our society, and we know that we have to get upstream of many of these problems and prevent these offences from taking place in the first place. Attitudes towards women, attitudes towards what is acceptable in relationships. I think that is the right place for us to think about how we
into invasion of privacy and suppression of freedom of expression?
Well, look, there's always going to be a line, but I think that we are very far the other side of what is acceptable of that line at the moment. I think it is right that we think about how we give schools and parents the tools they need to make sure that they are raising boys who will grow to be healthy young men in their own right, but also with a good understanding of what healthy relationships look like. We'll be setting out more of our proposals on those specifics later in the coming week. But I think it is important that the state takes some action, because we're not willing to sit back and just accept that violence against women and girls is a fact of life. And I think for too long, across society, it's just something that we expect. It's just something that's normal, and we're calling time on that.
Let me ask you about the appointment of the former Children's Commissioner, Anne Longfield, to fulfil the recommendation of Baroness Katie's report on grooming gangs. It's police's job to find perpetrators, CPS's job to prosecute them. Now, the underlying scandal here, I think, seems to be that most forms of child abuse are secret, but this was widely known about in neighbourhoods and where they took place. And the real job, surely, is to hunt down the people who turned a blind eye, people who covered things up, to discover how communities closed ranks. I mean, isn't this really a job for a forensic investigator rather than a child policy expert?
Well, I think it's a job for somebody who's got a track record of holding public authorities to account, because you're absolutely right. We've got the issue in relation to the perpetrators themselves and them being brought to justice. And you'll know that we have started Operation Beacon Port, which is a National Crime Agency programme looking at closed cases, and they're already opening up fresh investigations. So those men that maybe thought they got away with it, I think that they'll soon feel the full force of the law. So that is a national reopening of old cases to double check and make sure we can go after those
perpetrators. How many cases do you think that's going to involve?
Well, they're already looking at 200 cases of rape, for example, that they're revisiting and looking at once again to see if further charges can be brought. So closed cases are being reopened, and I think that that's a really important thing. The inquiry itself, the way it will be set up, any evidence that they uncover of criminality, either of perpetrators or of people who look the other way and who might have crossed criminal thresholds, they will be able to share that immediately with the police. I think what we have in Anne Longfield and with Zoe Billingham and Eleanor Kelly are 3 women who have a very strong track record of holding different types of public authorities to account, children's services, local authorities and police forces as well. And I think that's a really critical skill that the panel and the chair needed to have, and these 3 women absolutely have that.
Some of the survivors have complained that the dissolution of the advisory group is, in a sense, a lack of seriousness in your attitude towards them.
Well, look, we've obviously had a difficult period of managing the different views in the particular panel of victims and survivors that were informing the creation of the inquiry itself. It was always meant to be a time-limited panel because it was there to help us work out how to get the inquiry up and running and to get it off the ground. That's now in train.
But they say you're dissolving because you just don't like some of their views.
Not at all, and they will all have an opportunity to feed into the inquiry. So one of the things that the inquiry is going to do is create its own charter for how they are going to engage with victims and survivors. And what I would say to all victims and survivors is it's really difficult, obviously, for you, and we wouldn't expect everyone to agree. There will always be disagreements and a difference of emphasis between people on what they want to see. But the inquiry is up and running. There are draft terms of reference they will be consulted on. From March next year, it will get fully underway. What I would say is engage with the process. It's for us to show you that you can trust this process, but we are all absolutely committed to getting the answers that we as a whole country need, not least the victims and survivors.
May I just ask you one last question on this, which I think probably you are better equipped to answer than most government ministers. There's been a lot of focus on the ethnicity of the perpetrators. Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Afghan, Muslim men. Less on the victims, pretty much all young, white women. Are we in danger of missing a point here, that in the communities these men came from, there's a kind of contempt on the part of those communities towards these girls, and by the way, that's shared by some of the authorities, that actually it's as much the attitude towards the nature of the survivors and marked by their race as it is to do with the ethnicity of the perpetrators?
Well, these will all be matters that the inquiry will look at. What I would say is my own perspective on this has always been that this group of girls, they were all children when they were raped and abused, were seen by large parts of society, including the authorities that were there to protect them and that should have protected them and kept them safe, as white trash. Because they were from poorer backgrounds, they were vulnerable, they needed people to stand by them and help them. And it was easy to look the other way because they were almost dehumanised to the point where they weren't really seen as little girls at all. And look, Anne Longfield and the panel will make their own findings and recommendations. But I do think that what this scandal has exposed is a societal attitude of dismissal and dehumanisation of a particular class of young white girls. And it is an absolute scandal and it must never happen again.
All right, the other big thing that's on your plate, we've given the French £500 million to stop the small boats coming across the channel. You've come up with this one in, one out policy, I should say. The only thing that seems to stop the crossings is bad weather. And when the weather got a bit better yesterday, we had more than 500 coming across. To take a horrible metaphor, you haven't turned the tide on this, haven't you?
Not yet. Look, we are working very closely with our partners in France, particularly in the north of France, but actually further upstream with our partners in Europe as well. Look, the work that we're doing with law enforcement in France has already stopped 20,000 crossings. In fact, even yesterday when we saw the change in weather, as you rightly point out, led to people successfully making a crossing again. There were disruptive methods and they did stop some of those boats.
£500 million is a lot of money to spend on just keeping it at the current level.
No, it is. Look, it's a lot of money, and we have learnt a lot since we've been in government about which are the interventions that really work, and those are the interventions that we want to focus our efforts on with our partners in France. But this is a difficult challenge. I was on your show just a few weeks ago talking about some of the other changes I want to make to change the calculus of those that are looking to get on the boats in the first place, and then also to remove more people who arrive here illegally as well. So there is no one silver bullet here. I think I've acknowledged that before and I acknowledge it again. We have to come up with a range of proposals at every level in order to try and bear down on this.
The proposals you've come up with, your party doesn't fancy them very much. You had a demonstration in your own constituency yesterday. Your backbenchers mutter about the language and they talk about you being reform light. Mr Farage is publishing pictures of you, in reform colours because he says you're really one of them.
Well, I mean, that's mischief making, and I think I've challenged that pretty robustly myself. There's, you know, I've been very clear about the Labour values that I have brought to the policy decisions that I am making, that I'm making for a Labour government. All of our reforms are underpinned by the principles of fairness and of contribution. I think those are absolutely critical, and that is what is needed to build a system that the public can have confidence in.
Prime Minister doesn't seem to be able to make up his mind whether Mr Farage is a racist or not. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's for Nigel Farage. I've said this before. It's for him to answer for his own conduct. I'm not here to, you know, make investigations.
Why can't you guys just say what you think?
In the past. Well, I am saying what I think, which is it's for him to answer questions about his own conduct. Allegations have been made. He has to deal with it. What I've actually said is I think he does something, in my view, almost worse, which is he's very careful about leaning in with plausible deniability, but giving a dog whistle to every racist in the land about what he might really mean. And I think that's actually really irresponsible, and I've always called him out on that.
All right, just a story which you'll understand why I'm asking you this. News story about Andy Burnham's leadership ambitions this morning. Doesn't deny it. Does it annoy that you're busting a gut to deal with immigration and crime and this and that and the other, yet others in your party seem focused on fueling speculation about the leadership?
Well, I think that, and again, I was on your show just saying this a few weeks ago.
Labour
I know. Labour governments don't come along very often, and every minute that we have in government is precious. It's a privilege to be in government. I'm focused on the big job that I have as Home Secretary, and my advice to all colleagues everywhere would be that it's a precious privilege, and we mustn't waste a single minute of it. We have a big agenda. We have to crack on with delivering for the
Including
people.
if you're running a big city.
Wherever you sit in the Labour family, we all have a role to play in supporting the Labour government deliver for the people of this country.
All right, just a very last point, really. President Trump's national security strategy says that Europe faces civilizational erasure, it's called. It's called by migration policies that are transforming the continent and loss of national identities. I think he's pointing the finger at people like you. I think he's talking about Muslims. What's your response?
Well, I think that I'm very proud to be a citizen of a country that is as diverse as we are. We are a multi-faith, multi-ethnic country. I think that we have managed the challenges very well compared to other countries. That's not to say that we don't have work to do on integration, on the pace of change in our communities. It's why I'm looking very closely at not just illegal migrants into our country, but legal migration as well, to make sure it's done in a way that retains public confidence. It means that we can deal with the pace of change. Others will want to make political points about, you know, whether there's too many Muslims in Europe or not. What I would say is we're the sort of country that allows people to have the calling of their...
It's Donald Trump.
Well, you know, this is a country that allows people to have the calling of their own conscience, to live their own life free, but also has common rules that we all live by so that we live in peace together. And we have, generally speaking, done that quite well in this country compared to others. and that is a precious thing that I would never want to
But, you know, there's a serious point underlying this, which is somebody in your party once said, we don't do God. I think you take a different view, don't you? And what Donald Trump is saying is that there are people who, for example, like yourself, who come to politics with a particular point of view informed by your faith background, and that is a threat to Europe.
Well, obviously, I reject that. I can't speak for other countries in Europe, but what I can say here is I think if you look at people in public life, and I say this about people in other political parties as well as my own, you know, generally speaking, people are motivated by serving the communities that they come from and doing their best for the country. And even when we disagree as vociferously as we do on matters of party politics, we're all here to serve our country. And what I would say for myself is my faith is the reason I'm in public service. It's the reason why I want to serve my country and do my best to make our country a better place for millions of people. I think that that is a positive thing. And I think that this country has done both race relations and also relations between different religious communities reasonably well. There's always more work to do.
Do you think our country's ever going to be ready to give me a Muslim Prime Minister to interview?
Well, that's not a thing I can predict for the future. But what I can tell you is you have a Muslim Home Secretary in front of you that you've just been interviewing, and I think that shows the art of the possible in this country.
Home Secretary, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Well, that was Home Secretary. We need to pause for a moment to bring you some breaking news. There are reports now of a shooting on Bondi Beach in Sydney, in Australia. Police say they're responding to a situation there and they have 2 people in custody. Local media is saying that several people have been injured, and video shared on social media shows 2 men dressed in black shooting near the beach's car park. Now, our correspondent Oliver Whitfield-Murchich is in the newsroom. Oliver, what do we know?
So we know that there's been these reports of gunshots that have been fired very close to the beachfront on Bondi Beach in Sydney, a hugely popular area with tourists, with locals and with expats alike. There's a very big expat community all around Bondi Beach. It's just coming up to 8 o'clock at night in Sydney, and even at that time of the evening, with the weather being as warm as what it is, with it being the summer currently in the southern hemisphere, Bondi Beach is often rammed. The area has got a lot of restaurants along that beach. There are some beachside restaurants on the streets right nearby. There are pubs that are often popular on a Sunday evening. Now, what we know is that the police say there are 2 people who are currently in police custody, but they say that their police operation is still ongoing. There had been a stay-in-place, a shelter warning issued by New South Wales Police. There's been reports of these multiple gunshots that have been fired and fears that there could be some injuries. But so far, that is all the information that we have got to go on, that this gunshots have been fired right next to Bondi Beach, a hugely popular location in Sydney, especially on these summer evenings when people would have been out. It's not just popular with people who go surfing on Bondi Beach, although that's its main claim to fame. This is an area where people will come to just to sit on the beach, gather, be with friends, especially on a Sunday, 11 days before Christmas. This will have been an area that would have been packed, even at this late time of evening. As I say, 8 o'clock in the evening it's coming up to in Sydney. And so the authorities in Sydney will be on high alert. Their police investigation ongoing, even though these 2 people are in custody. The police saying that their operation is ongoing, and they've urged people to stay away from the area while they try to ensure that everybody is safe.
Oliver, thank you so much. Keep us posted. We have our panel, Sonia Seder, Ian Dale, Tim Montgomery. Sonia, first reactions?
I mean, it's just terrible news, isn't it? I really feel for everybody who's affected, everyone who's in the area. People have had that warning from police to sort of stay away. I'm sure it's very frightening if you live there. But obviously it's too early to know anything about, exactly who's perpetrated this, what their motivations are, etc. So it's just one of those news stories that you hear about and you just think, gosh, totally awful.
Ian, we will probably be able to speak to our correspondent in Sydney in a moment, but Ian, these things, not only they seem to be more frequent, but they have an impact on us in thousands of miles away.
Well, they do, and I think anyone that's ever been to Bondi Beach, I've been there, I mean, it's one of those iconic places. If you want to create an impact in Australia, that's probably the place that you would choose to do something like this. As your correspondent said, there would be thousands and thousands of people there. I mean, it's the kind of place you can sort of compare it to a Spanish beach, sort of that we're used to. Sort of people really rammed in. So I suspect it wouldn't take a lot for them to have created a lot of injuries.
I suppose, particularly combined with what we've seen from the United States last night, Tim. There's a sort of sense of vulnerability in the modern world.
There's huge vulnerability, but I always remember probably the greatest terrorist attack of our era was, of course, 9/11. And Rudy Giuliani's advice was tough, but it was what we all must try and do, was go out there, do shopping, do the things that you would normally do again. That's the only way that we ultimately beat terror. It's not easy in the immediate aftermath of something that's potentially as horrific as this. We don't obviously know the full scale of it yet. But leading our normal lives, resuming the normal activities of visiting friends, doing the things that we do normally, that's the way we beat these threats, because it is terrible, and goodness knows what loss of life potentially there is at the moment. But actually, although there's vulnerability, these events are relatively rare.
Well, we can go to our correspondent, Nicole Johnston in Sydney. Nicole, what more can you tell us?
Well, look, this story has only broken in the last 30 minutes, and initially it came out with reports of an active shooter at Bondi Beach. In the last 15 minutes or so, I've received some of the graphic video that is now circulating on social media. A lot of young teenagers are passing it around. The Australian Jewish Association has also posted the same video, and it is graphic and it is shocking. You can see two men, active shooters, firing from a pedestrian bridge right at Bondi Beach with a car park beneath it, one of the sort of most central parts of that sort of vast strip of beach that people use to get onto the beach. There's also video of injured people on the ground. They're receiving medical treatment. There is blood on the ground. So clearly there have been sort of at least a number of injured people there. We don't know how many at this stage. The Prime Minister has confirmed that there has been an active shooter. Now the reports are that 2 people have been taken into custody about that. I was about 10 minutes away from Bondi Beach and just quickly headed back to my home, and there were, a lot of ambulance on the street and police. So things are clearly ramping up. People have been told to keep away from the area. Friends who have children and teenagers sort of enjoying the late afternoon, evening down at Bondi, they've all been told to sort of stay indoors, to go to ground. So a really shocking development in Sydney at Bondi Beach this afternoon, and we're still trying to find out what's behind it. But from the video that's come out, it looks very clear. 2 men dressed in black firing towards people at Bondi Beach. Now, the one other thing that was happening in the area at the time, and we don't know at this stage whether there is any relation to this at all, there was a Jewish Hanukkah event happening in the area, but at this stage we don't know whether or not that is linked.
Nicole, I think we can see some of what took place. Let's play that video. Okay, we've just heard some of the audio of what took place, Nicole. You just said that you thought, or it is being reported, that there was a Hanukkah event taking place. That, of course, puts a completely different complexion on this event.
Well, it could do. We don't know at this stage, so we can't draw conclusions or automatically assume that there is a link to that. The Australian Jewish Association may be concerned that there is, of course. They have posted this video that is now doing the rounds here in Australia. It doesn't surprise me that you may only be listening to the audio and not seeing the video, because I have seen it and it is incredibly graphic to see. And just to report what I saw on the video, 2 men in black over a pedestrian bridge firing at Bondi Beach. So look, it's still very early days. As I said, a lot of ambulance were on the street, police rushing to the area. I live close to one of the major hospitals here in central Sydney, so apparently they're headed towards, some of those injured are headed towards St Vincent Hospital. But also reports coming out that there were dozens of shots fired. So if that is the case, I think we could expect to hear about multiple injuries, but it's still very early days. The area has been locked down, closed off. This has really only taken place in the last half an hour or so. People are being told to stay indoors. But the reports that we're getting is that the 2 active shooters, or at least 2 of them, have been held. There are, of course, concerns that there could be more than that, which is why people in that area are being told to stay indoors.
Okay, Nicole, first of all, keep yourself safe. We will no doubt be coming back to you shortly. It is, as Nicole said, early days, and in these situations, it's wise not to speculate. However, if the connections that are being made are
well, that is
brought
what
out,
is being speculated heavily on social media, that
yeah,
it is related to a Hanukkah gathering.
This would be a pretty grave event, not just, something that somebody decides to do, but it has meaning.
Well, the Jewish people have been persecuted throughout history. It's the ancient hatred, I'm afraid. And if this is an attack on Jewish people, then it is of a very different order from a random attack on people enjoying a Saturday, Sunday night out. And I just pray now for the safety of reporters, everyone in that area at the moment, because what you don't know is, I'm afraid, these terrorists do organise sometimes a second attack after a first one. And so we are very lucky that as we run away from moments like this, the emergency services run forward and protect people. And so let's, anyone who's religious now, it's the time to pray for the safety of everyone in that area.
Just to reiterate, shots fired at Sydney's Bondi Beach, that the Australian police are saying that they have 2 people in custody. At the moment, we know nothing about casualties. We have some reports of events that were going on the beach, one related to Hanukkah. And we can now hear, I think we can hear from the Australian Prime Minister. I'll read you what he has had to say. The scenes in Bondi are shocking and distressing. Police and emergency responders are on the ground working to save lives. My thoughts are with every person affected. That is from the Australian Prime Minister. He also says, I've just spoken to the AFP Commissioner and the New South Wales Premier. We're working with the New South Wales Police and will provide further updates as more information is confirmed. What are you making? I think we can come back to our panel. Sonia, what are you making of it?
Well, as we've all said, it's too early to speculate, but it's very hard not to speculate when you've got details out of a Jewish Hanukkah event happening nearby. People clearly believe that there is some connection, and I think if that stands up, the significance of this, it will reverberate much further than Australia. We've had lots of warnings recently about the prospect of terror attacks in the run-up to Christmas across Europe as well. So I think it's something that's very, at the front of people's minds.
Let me not mislead you. We do not know that this is a terror attack. It may have some of those characteristics, but at the moment we have no idea about motivations or anything.
Well, let's be clear.
Like
it is a terror attack, Trevor, because people have been terrorised by people shooting. So I don't think it's wrong to call it that.
I understand what you're saying, Ian, but I think we have to be careful. Now, correspondent Oliver Whitfield-Miocic is in the newsroom. Oliver, do we know anything more?
Well, we're seeing these images in which it looks increasingly like this is quite a serious incident that is taking place in Bondi Beach, and that is being underscored by what we're hearing from the Australian Prime Minister, who says that the scenes in Bondi are shocking and distressing. Police and emergency responders are on the ground working to save lives. My thoughts are with every person affected. That would seem to suggest then that we have at least a few injuries, potentially more. Also from the Australian Prime Minister saying, I've just spoken to the Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police and the New South Wales Premier. We're working with New South Wales Police and we'll provide further updates as more information is confirmed. The last update that we had from police in Sydney, from New South Wales, was that 2 people had been placed into police custody. Also, that this police operation is ongoing. We had heard this warning for people to shelter in place, for people not to attend the area. Bondi Beach is a hugely popular area with locals who go there to surf. It is popular with tourists who go to Australia and want to see the famous beach, but it's also hugely popular with expatriates, backpackers. It's an area known for people who go to Australia on working holiday visas, who naturally go to Bondi. It's got plenty of bars. It's got a big transport hub with a huge shopping centre just at the top. So it's an area that on a Sunday, just before Christmas, would have been hugely popular. Remember, it is summertime in the Southern Hemisphere, so it would have been warm weather, even at 8 o'clock at night, as that's the time currently. And so you can see from the video that we have on screen, the beach, even at that time of the evening, there was still, judging by it, hundreds of people on Bondi Beach. And so now the police trying to make this area safe, trying to ensure that there are no more shooters in the area, and their investigation is continuing. But as far as what we know, 2 people placed into police custody, a police operation that is ongoing. And as we said earlier on, the Australian Prime Minister, they're saying that they're working with the police. They're going to provide more updates, but also that the emergency responders on the ground are working to save lives.
I just want to read what the Australian Prime Minister has said. He says that the scenes in Bondi are shocking and distressing. Police and emergency responders are on the ground working to save lives. My thoughts are with every person affected. And he goes on to say, I have just spoken to the Australian Federal Police Commissioner and the New South Wales Premier. We are working with the New South Wales Police and will provide further updates as more information is confirmed. We are not showing the material that's being circulated on social media, but from what we're already hearing, it sounds pretty horrific.
Well, it does, and I think, if it is an attack on a Hanukkah gathering, and that is certainly what everybody's speculating about, and I completely accept that